It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Wednesday midweek edition of the show. Hey, thanks so much for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. And of course, also a big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. Continue to tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, even your enemies if you want to. Everybody's welcome here. And tell them about the show, and the more the merrier, so to speak. Okay, today on the show, we're going to dive into some interesting topics and have some fun as well. So we've got Margy Eckelkamp here. She's the editor of The Scoop, as well as top producer with Farm Journal. And they've got some new data out that is diving into the online buying habits for inputs, for crop inputs, by farmers in the U.S. And the trend, or some of the results, are maybe not what some expect. Got some parallel data from last year in Canada through RealAgri studies that maybe next week we'll maybe compare a little bit. Didn't have time to put that together, but I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek. Farmers aren't buying as much online as maybe some people thought they would. Okay, so we're going to dive into it with Margy. We're also today going to have some of your feedback, and we're also, this is the fun part, okay? So on this show, we talk a lot about agronomy. We talk about equipment. We talk about ag policy, what's in the news, all this kind of stuff, okay? And I love the fact that you tune in and make us one of your information sources for your farm business. Today, we're also going to talk country music. That's right, we got Brett Kissel, Alberta-born country music star, three-time Juno winner, multi-platinum artist. Brett Kissel will be here. He's got a new album that came out last week, the West album, and he's going to talk all about it, and there's some very cool stories. He's a singer-songwriter, which I just think I just have so much respect for. They're not like a manufactured country star or singer, right? They do it all, and Brett's going to be here. He's got a huge agricultural background, and if you haven't heard his music, I encourage you to check it out and get that new album. So we'll talk to Brett Kissel today on the show as well, and then we'll have some time for the top ag news stories of the day. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can always send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media platforms. Or, of course, you can always call that RealAg feedback line. The number is 855-776-6147. Okay, we've got big news. Bill C-234, which we've been talking a lot about. This is the bill to give an exemption for farming-based activities, grain drying, heating of barns, greenhouses. Give an exemption on the carbon tax. Okay, a 10-year window here. And there's been a lot of drama. Really, well, there was drama in the House, and now there's really been a lot of drama in the Senate. So yesterday, it was the amendments from the Senate Ag Committee were defeated. And this is what farm groups wanted. So this is a good step. So the motion to adopt the amended version of C-234 in the Senate on Tuesday was defeated, with 42 senators voting against it and 28 in favor. Two senators that were in the chamber, including the deputy chair of the Senate Ag Committee, Senator Paula Simons of Alberta, abstained. Still don't understand what she is up to. And this story is posted at RealAgriculture.com. It is great work by Kelvin Hepner of our team at Real Agriculture. And this, for the people that are subscribers to our Western and Eastern emails that come out in your inbox every morning, this story was in it. And it passed this drama all unfolded last night, and it was in your inbox this morning. So great work by Kelvin and the team. Okay. So if the amended version of the bill would have been accepted in Tuesday's vote, the revised bill would have been sent back to the House of Commons, where the government could have delayed it indefinitely. Instead, the original version of MP Lobb's bill is now slated for third and final reading in the Senate on Thursday. Hopefully no drama unfolds there, and there's no sort of, political tactics that are used, and hopefully this final reading can happen. So many individuals, farmers, and farm groups contacted senators, which is kind of unusual. More than 1,300 emails were sent to senators through an online campaign organized by the Agriculture Carbon Alliance. And we've heard from Dave Carey and Scott Ross, to the leaders of the Ag Carbon Alliance, about all that. C-234 was approved in the House of Commons earlier this year with support from Conservatives, NDP, the Bloc, and the Greens. Talk about bipartisan. Yeah, who's missing? The Liberals. Yeah. Okay, so this is a great news yesterday. This is what the ag industry has been pushing for. And again, I'll say it again, and I know some of you may roll your eyes. This is why we have checkoff orgs, for this kind of work. And it's not just about the 2-week campaign to email and to lobby and to fill their inboxes and to push. It's also about, throughout the year, the relationships that are built to basically have that trust to really push things like this forward that are good for the industry of agriculture, because we need all the help we can get. Especially, we need all the help just from an attention standpoint. And this is a great success. So I hope the final reading happens on Thursday, as Kelvin is reporting. Great work by him. I know this is going to come up on Friday's RealAg Issues panel. Okay, so make sure you check out that on Friday. Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to dig into the online buying habits of farmers with Margy Eckelkamp of Top Producer and The Scoop right after this.
What's next for your fields? At Pioneer, delivering industry-leading genetics drives everything we do. From the scientists in the lab to our local teams with boots on the ground, we are determined to get there first. Developing top-performing products, proven in more growing conditions than ever before. Pioneer. What's next happens here. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
When it comes to your farm, you demand performance, because what goes in determines what comes out. At Pride Seeds, we deliver on performance. With best-in-class corn hybrid seed, you'll see results when it comes to premium yield in all the ways that matter. Moisture, nutrition, dollars per acre, and of course, tonnage. So discover your farm's advantage, the Pride Seeds advantage. Visit your local dealer or prideseeds.com today.
Okay, let's dig into some of the farmer purchasing behaviors and habits. We've got a new survey out in the U.S., and we're joined right now by Margy Eckelkamp. She's editor of The Scoop and Top Producer. Margy, great to chat with you.
Hey, Shaun, thank you so much for having me on. Excited to be here at Real Agriculture.
Yeah, okay, so this is interesting because we hear a lot about, farmers buying online, and there's a lot of companies have either made this an option or maybe their singular focus as well. You've been doing this study now for 6 or 7 years, I believe. Now, which way is the trend going? Are farmers purchasing more online now or less?
Yeah, great question, Shaun. So yes, Farm Journal has conducted its crop input purchase behavior study since 2018. And really the key question, the thesis that we're trying to dive into is, are farmers buying their crop inputs online? Now, this study is unique for two main reasons. One, its longevity. We've got data going back to 2018. Notably, that was right after the latest influx of e-commerce or marketplace options for U.S. crop inputs. It also actually coincides with the launch of a notable series of grower portals, including Nutrients Grower Portal and others. So longevity is one of the ways that makes this study distinct. The other key distinction of this study is that we are focusing only on crop inputs. So we aren't asking farmers about hand tools or batteries or shop towels, right? We're only asking them about crop protection, seed, and fertilizer. Now, what's interesting in that 6 years, we've seen a little bit of a parabola. Okay. 2018, we had 8% of farmers saying that they had purchased any of their crop inputs online that year. And then this year for 2023, again, we have 8% of farmers saying they bought any of their inputs online. Now, last year was perhaps the high watermark, and that was 18% of farmers who said they had bought any of their crop inputs online. Now, I share that it's kind of like the tip of an iceberg in a way. There is a lot beneath the surface. It's very nuanced. Happy to tease out some of those threads as well.
So I guess why the decrease in 1 year? That's a pretty sharp sort of snap back to where we were back in 2018. Any ideas you can share with why?
Yeah, I think that points to maybe not necessarily a decrease, maybe not a snapback, but maybe a perception versus reality. So what does it mean for farmers to buy online? So I referenced, and you did in the intro as well, those solely focused e-commerce options. And I think some folks, when you say buying online, that's exactly where their mind runs to. We actually ask our farmers every year, what does it mean to you to buy online? And they can check multiple boxes, okay? But the number one way that folks think that it means to them to buy online, in fact, 53% of them said so, was that they do research online and then they call to order. Now, it's interesting in that, right? That's a digitally augmented process for purchasing your crop inputs. But I think that helps illuminate something that we've really experienced specifically here in the US since 2020. And we had significant supply chain challenges of some of our key crop inputs.
Oh, yeah.
And I think during that time, I would talk to ag retailers, I would talk to farmers, and I got the sense that a lot of folks were really going back to the traditional ag channel as a sense of security amid all that volatility and uncertainty about their supplies. Now, simultaneously, Shaun, since 2018, we have had a huge increase in retailers investing in their own online presence and how they're digitizing that purchase with farmers. So I mentioned Nutrien as an example. You also have folks like AgVend who made their decision in 2020 to sunset their marketplace, sunset that e-commerce option, and solely focus on grower portals. So while farmers have been exploring their options, looking for security in their crop input purchase, they've also been able to find traditional ag retail show up differently than they ever have before.
So are from a qualification standpoint, are we, if somebody researches the product on the internet and then calls to order, are we saying that's buying online?
I would say from their point of view, they're telling us that's buying online. And that's what the study is really trying to measure, is that level of adoption among farmers and how they're engaging in their crop input purchases.
Is there a little bit of an assumption too, and maybe price? You mentioned supply, but how do people look at buying online relative to the pricing side of the equation? Because I think sometimes when we think about, from a B2C standpoint, we think about Amazon, right? And I know if I buy on Amazon, one, it's likely to be probably cheaper than the brick and mortar store, and it, depending on how close you are to a major distribution center, I'm going to have it very quickly as well, and I don't need to leave my house. Is like how does the farmer view price in relative to buying online?
Yeah, so I'm going to point to two different aspects from our study. Yeah. And I want to also encourage folks, if they want to see the full report, you're welcome to check it out. It's at www.thedailyscoop.com. But, that 92% of farmers who say they aren't buying online. We ask them why not, right? And an overwhelming majority, 86% of them say the top reason why they don't buy online is because they're satisfied with their current input provider. So to your analogy, you aren't going to go to another avenue to make a procurement decision if you're just frankly happy with how you're currently doing something, right? Now, we do also ask farmers how important are different aspects of buying their crop inputs in their overall purchase decision. And this year, neck and neck, very important to farmers would be price. Because I think anytime you ask a farmer about their crop inputs, they're going to talk about what drives their decision is price. But also right up there is the availability of the products and brands that they need. So I think that especially in its latest iteration with some of our supply chain crunches that we navigated through, I think that's really driving a large number of farmers and how they're making their crop input purchase.
What's also interesting to me too is that in 2023, if you look at what products farmers were buying online, the kind of product fits very, very naturally what you would think in terms of the order. So if we're buying like a pre-emerge, a burn down product, that's the most likely, right? Because, there's generics in the marketplace. I think that is a bit of a factor. So 23% saying pre-emerge. And then you get down to like something like fertilizer, insecticide, it's more on that 8 to 10%. It's a significant drop. Fertilizer also makes sense because I think the value of that purchase is the total dollar amount plays a bit of a role too. Anything in terms of that product breakdown that stuck out to you?
Yeah. So one of the biggest consistent responses we've had over the 6 years has been the type of product that farmers are most likely to buy online. And you're spot on, Shaun. It's been herbicides. And I think also driving that is because that's a planned input. It has a lot of other variability based on your seed, dictating perhaps what herbicide package you're going to go with, but it's a guaranteed need, right? So farmers need to spray herbicides, fertilizer, and then some of the other ones that vary a good amount would be the insecticide and fungicide, which have been more conditional, whether it be a real pest pressure or environmental consideration that year. Another group that I think has increased, and I think it's indicative too of the herbicide amount that's being bought online, would be adjuvants, because so often those are going together in a tank mix. Now, I should also share with that supply chain issues that we've had, we also had retailers being proactive in going to farmers, trying to do a lot more preseason planning with them and really assign by the field, by the acre, what the plan is for the next year. Now, you would be amazed at how many farmers may not be doing that across every field, every acre, right? But this was one way that ag retail really embraced the challenge that they knew they had ahead of them with product supply and tried to be as proactive as possible. I had an agronomy sales manager who told me he was not accepting any of his sales team in 2021 to come back and just say, I'm going to need more fungicide next year. He wanted an exact volume percent difference because that was the level of planning that they felt was going to be really necessary to be able to get product in the warehouse and then distributed out to farmer customers.
When you talk to the and through the scoop, there's a lot of focus on the retailer.
Mm-hmm.
How does the retail channel feel about these levels? Is this where they expect to be? With there's been a lot of money invested in portals and online dashboards and all this kind of stuff to try to serve this potentially really, really increasing market. Where does the retail channel sit? Do they see success, or do they feel that the farmer hasn't transitioned as quickly as maybe they thought?
Yeah, I think that success is measured in different ways. So the study that we've been referencing this whole time, it is in our latest issue of the Scoop magazine. Also in that same issue, I have an interview with the CEO of AgVend, Alex Raychair, and he really shares they measure their adoption at AgVend, which is one of those grower portal software developers, by how many farmers are logging in at least monthly. And their number right now is 65,000 farmers. They're very quickly looking to increase that to over 100,000 by the end of this year. But he shares the number one use case for their grower portals isn't necessarily this input purchasing, point, click, buy transactional nature. It's really going on, checking your balance, checking your invoices. It may be looking at a prescription map or checking in with your agronomy team and communicating with them. But buying your inputs, I think, is becoming more of a build it and they will come, as a majority of farmers are engaging routinely online with the apps, with digitizing their own farm business. I think it will very quickly become table stakes and base expectations. Again, 53% of farmers say their expectation for buying online is being able to research a product, but then also have someone to call. So I think the momentum is really behind these relationships that we have in agriculture business. And I'll use the great umbrella term of trusted advisor, right? You want to be able to collect your own information, but then still have your trusted advisor. So you want that personal business relationship augmented by a bit of technology.
Yeah, before we wrap up here, Margy, any differences regionally? Like, did the Northern Plains act differently here in this regard than, say, the Eastern Corn Belt?
Yeah, so really we break down the results both by number of acres by farmer as well as age. And there's never really been a big difference geographically or even demographically across the farmers. I think it really comes down to the early adopters. And we have a story paralleled with this research highlighting a farmer who 100% of what he buys is online, and he doesn't let a single white pickup truck down the road to visit him as his shop. So I think it also highlights that farmers are independent business people and there are solutions out there for each one.
Great stuff. We've been talking to Margy Eckelkamp. She is the editor of The Scoop and top producer, and as always does a great job. Margy, thanks a lot for talking to us about this study, and good luck with it, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thanks, Shaun.
The world needs more of what Canada grows. Join agriculture industry leaders from across the country at Grow Canada in Calgary from November 28th through the 30th. Visit growcanadaconference.ca to register now. Okay, we'll be right back on RealAg Radio. We're going to hear from Keith Curry of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture to hear about their new farm financial report for 23-24. We'll have him right after this.
If I asked you, what's the most important tool on your farm? You'd probably think of tractors, trucks, and implements first. But it's actually something much bigger than that. Your soil is the most important equipment you own. The real question is, are you doing enough to keep it running at peak performance? Nutrien Smart Nutrition MAP plus MST is engineered with patented micronized sulfur technology to refuel your soil for maximum yields. Learn how to tune up your soil at smartnutritionmst.com.
Before you get back in the field this year, spend some time with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com. Get all the information you need on hybrid selection, planting depth, crop inputs, and more from a wide range of industry experts. A massive library of video content is available on demand when you need it most. Spend your time outside of the field, inside the classroom, with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com.
Whether you're a rookie soybean grower or a seasoned vet, the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com has exactly what you need to stay in the game. The latest research and the best agronomic advice from industry experts, along with local and global market coverage on demand, anywhere, anytime. Make this growing season your best growing season with the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com.
Asking asking you for your feedback, and we got some great feedback based on yesterday's show. But first, I'm going to tell you about Alliance Seed and CDC Endure oats. Top yields, excellent disease resistance, and the quality end users ask for, all in one great oat variety. CDC Endure is available through Alliance Seed authorized retailers. Find out more by going to allianceseed.com. Okay, yesterday I talked about the October results of the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index. There was a lot of data to walk through. I gave you my interpretation of it, and I got a couple messages that people have their own perspectives, which I think is awesome. Okay, so first got a message from Cameron. He's in Canada. I don't know where, but he is in Canada, and he says, I answered the Sentiment Index survey last month, and I think the next 5 years will be bad times until the Liberal government is gone. Appreciate your message, Cameron. And so this Cameron's alluding to where I talked about, we ask a question, do you think the next 5 years will be widespread good times, widespread bad times? And it was a negative result. If I remember right, it was in the 70s, actually. It was, which, a scale of 200, 0 to 200, that's not very, it's kind of pretty negative in my mind. It's 5 years out, people. And Cameron, I think there's a lot of people that there's some political overtones here. One of the most interesting things, okay, is how some of these questions, exactly what, because I think there's a lot of people in Cameron's boat, okay? I'm interested if in 2025, we have a change in government. Let's just say Liberals lose, the Conservatives win, and Pierre Poilievre is Prime Minister. How do these numbers change from prior to post-election? I think it's fascinating. It is really fascinating. That is something that I really that will be like, there's stories to write from that change in data in terms of how much of who you support politically impacts how well things will be in the broader context. So, Cameron, thanks for the message. I do appreciate it, and thanks for listening. Also, thanks for filling out the survey and being a part of the Real Agri Studies Insights panel. Then I got a message from Trip. Okay, and Trip says, I farm in Texas and listen to how negative Canadians are about the future. It's disheartening. There's lots to be excited about and thankful for. Ag has it way better than many others. Okay, Trip. Hey, thanks for the message, and thanks for listening. And hope things are going well in Texas. And there's an aspect to that too. Now, what we have seen, and I haven't looked at the October results of the Purdue CME Ag Barometer, but historically, I've seen where, honestly, American farmers are much more positive, optimistic about the next 12 months in terms of their farm financial health than Canadians have been. And I ask kind of why. And at some point, Jim Mintert and I and Justin will dig into that and try to maybe sort through some of the reasons of that. It's difficult because you're dealing with two survey populations. But there's obviously an undertone in Canada where people are, they've been negative about their farm financial future out 12 months. Okay, it's been consistent. The last 13 months we've been doing this. The future farm financial performance has been lower than the current. But like I said, those two things are converging. Okay, current farm financial performance and future farm financial performance, they're almost the same number. One is 90 and the other is 89. Okay, so we'll see what happens in January when we do the next installment of the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index. Keep your feedback coming, okay? I want to continue to get your perspectives. We have posted the longer summary video of the results, the high-level results. So if you are interested in seeing that, you can find it at RealAgriculture.com. You can also find it on the Real Agriculture YouTube channel. And honestly, if you can't find it, just send me an email. And with that, send me your perspectives. Haney at RealAgriculture.com is my email. I welcome your feedback. Okay, let's take a break. And when we come back, we are going to dive into a really, really fun discussion. We're talking to country music star, Alberta born. It is Brett Kissel. He'll be with us to talk about his new album and some of the great heartfelt songs that he has written for that album. We'll be right back. You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147.
Are you concerned about the continuing rise of input costs and your increasing risk to plant a crop? My name's Paul Sinkovich, President at Vantage Ag. We believe that the days of placing all of your fertilizer needs at seeding time and hoping for a crop are behind us. Join us at AgriTrade in Red Deer, November 9th, as we are hosting an information meeting to showcase how our new nano-liquid fertilizer technology will reduce your risk. Call 778-919-3370 to reserve your seat today.
As you look ahead to the next growing season, there's a lot to consider when it comes to your crop. You need every possible advantage available to you. The Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com has everything you need to make the best choice for you and your farm. On-demand videos with leading industry experts, available anywhere, anytime. Go into the season confident and ready with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com.
Okay, let's talk some country music. I know we got lots of country music fans out there in the Real Agriculture and Real Ag Radio audience. We're talking right now to the multi-platinum 3 times Juno winner. It is Brett Kissel. Brett, it's great to chat with you.
Well, it's great to chat with you too, and I'm honored that you invited me to be a part of the program. Thank you. Thanks, Shaun.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot of stuff going on, and I guess I wanted to talk to you about this big project that you've taken on. You've got kind of a thematic 4-album compilation coming together here. New album came out here early November. Tell us about this project and why you're so passionate about it.
Well, the project is called the Compass Project, and it's essentially a 4-part album. But even though it was only going to be a couple songs and it was going to make one album, I got carried away and I ended up making 4 albums. So these 4 albums create the box set. That is the Compass Project. We have North, East, South, and West, of course. The South album is where the needle of the compass points south to Nashville, a city that you and I both love. And it's your straight ahead new country record that I think people would expect, for radio hits and all that, all those vibes. The East album is a singer-songwriter album that I'm extremely proud of. A lot of these songs that I never thought Shaun would have ever seen the light of day, but they have now because we've created an entire record that really gives me the opportunity to flex that songwriter muscle. Then the West album that just came out on Friday, I'm so proud of it because it's an authentic Western and very traditional record in terms of the themes, the songs that we've written, the songs that I recorded, and the way that we recorded it, to have it be a very Western record. And then the North that'll come out later this year, right before Christmas, is a greatest hits album. But it's all live though. So all of my singles that you would have known, or anybody in your audience at RealAg Radio, would know that songs like 321 or Drink About Me, Make a Life Not a Living, it's all live from different cities across Canada because we've recorded all of our shows. So that's how we made our greatest hits record. And that's what the Compass Project is all about. It's a wonderful creative project that I'm very proud is now out in the world.
That's cool. And you talk about some of the traditional country music. It seems that after a period of time where we kind of went kind of top 40, kind of poppy, it feels like we're kind of pulling back a little bit to more some country roots. If you look at some of the singers that are having a lot of success right now, and I watch the CMAs and things like that. Do you feel that right now?
Very much so. I mean, the pendulum always swings, right? If you analyze each decade of country music, at the beginning of the 1980s and the late 70s into the 80s, there was all these orchestral arrangements, and Lionel Richie was doing songs, and Ray Charles was joining Willie Nelson, and Kenny Rogers had these beautiful symphonies behind him. That was a very pop thing. And then you get a guy like George Strait and Randy Travis that brought it all the way back in so that it would sound authentically country again. Then you look at the 90s, and as things were very, very country in the early 90s with Brooks and Dunn and Garth Brooks, then things started to go a little bit more pop leaning when Faith Hill was doing songs like I Love the Way You Love Me and I Could Feel You Breathe in the late 90s into the 2000s. So you had Bro Country, which was huge in the 2010s. And that was very rock heavy, and Jason Aldean had distortion on his guitars, and it was a great big rock show. And then Dan and Shay and Justin Bieber are doing these pop duets. It was an amazing time for country, but the pendulum has to swing where, guys like Chris Stapleton and Zach Bryan and Lainey Wilson are doing more authentic and genuine country again. So the country music genre is the most amazing genre because it's this gigantic umbrella where we all fit underneath it. We really do. It's the most diverse genre, I'm convinced of it, in the world. However, I'm also very proud that in a lot of ways, it's definitely it's not on this, highway with a Lamborghini going towards LA. It's actually on a gravel road and a pickup truck heading back towards, down home Tennessee.
So you farm, your family's been around agriculture. You've been around it your whole life, ranching, things like that. What inspires you? You're a singer-songwriter, which I really, really commend. You're not something that's sort of been created by a record company. You're living and breathing and creating your own music. What inspires you?
Well, there's many different areas, especially as a songwriter, that I can draw on inspiration. And one of the most important words that I would say is authenticity, because I was a songwriter in Nashville for many years. I had my record deal, but I also had a publishing deal. And so for your radio audience who may not know what a publishing deal really is that I'm paid to wake up in the morning and write songs for other people. It's a wonderful business model, and it's a wonderful ecosystem in Nashville. But I felt that it wasn't authentic to me because I would write with a new person. So let's pretend it's you and me, Shaun. We would get together in a room. I would have an idea, or you'd have an idea. We'd create a song by 4 p.m. It's done. We go, we record it, and we hope that we can pitch it to Tim McGraw or Carrie Underwood or Blake Shelton. But it wasn't authentic. I was writing songs for Blake Shelton thinking that this is something he would say, or this is something George Strait would say, as opposed to what would I say? So as an artist and as a true songwriter, I wanted to write songs about things that really mattered to me. And you get very lucky if the things that matter to you, because that's where the authenticity comes from, if something matters to you is general enough or relatable enough that your entire audience or your fan base can relate to it too. So that's a wonderful thing that is important to try to achieve. But when it comes to the Compass Project and the inspiration behind it, I was really just trying to write about themes and songs and stories that were authentic to me, regardless of what anybody else would think or whether they would enjoy it or not. The interesting thing, though, is that, I get a lot of messages daily from fans or friends or family saying, I know this is uniquely, very unique to you, and this is your personal story, but it's very relatable to me too. So that's a big, big part of my inspiration, is trying to find authenticity in what I write about.
Now, there'll be tracks that'll get released and will become very, very popular. Now, sometimes the artist's favorite track is not one of the ones that gets released, but if you look at the whole track of the West album that was released last Friday, what's your favorite track and why?
Well, there's a few different songs that are important to me, and when I say important, I guess therefore it would be my favorites. But the first one that comes to mind is this song called "Missing You" in San Antone, and I just love how we did a Western swing song in 2023. That doesn't make any sense in terms of today's country music. Who would do an authentic Western swing song that you would have heard in the 1940s Texas barroom? So I'm really proud of that song and the instrumentation and being able to write a theme like that. But then there's another song I wrote called "Oil and Cattle," which talks about my love for Alberta and the prairies. So it's a 4-verse song that actually started off as a 3-verse song. First song was about me. I come from the land of oil and cattle, hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. And that's how I'd always describe Alberta. Especially if I'm doing interviews with anybody in the States or in Europe or internationally, they say, tell me about your homeland. Tell me about Alberta. And I said, well, it's the land of oil and cattle. And so I wanted to write that song. Second verse talks about Saskatchewan and my love for the prairies. A lot of family have come from Saskatchewan. Our home in St. Paul is, only, an hour from the Saskatchewan border. So that's my ode to the prairies. The third verse talks about the foothills and how much I love, the mountains and the foothills. And George Canyon sang that verse. Brad Johnner sang the Saskatchewan verse. And that's where the song, Shaun, ended. That was it. It was a 3-verse song. That's it. It was done recording. But I've got a good friend who's an elder in the community up from Fort Chip in northern Alberta. His name is Dwayne Nemlander. And Dwayne teaches in the city of Edmonton reconciliation and, is on many different boards for Indigenous affairs. So as I have really formed some beautiful friendships over the years with many different chiefs and different people who are part of tribal council, it was Dwayne who said, before it was the land of oil and cattle, it was ours first, eh? And I just felt that was a very unique mic drop moment. So I wrote the fourth verse that talks about an Indigenous perspective that my friend Don Amaro, who's a great artist from Winnipeg, with background, his family's Métis and Inuit. So he sang that verse. So oil and cattle, in that regard might be my favorite. But maybe later on in this show, I'll tell you a little bit about another song called Legacy that talks about farm succession planning. If you haven't heard that one is going to tug on your heartstrings. So it would be oil and cattle and Legacy and probably Missing You in San Antonio.
Legacy, is there some personal background to that legacy story? And, I think a lot of farmers think about legacy, right? And what they're leaving for the next generation. So talk about that.
Sure. Well, big time. Legacy was inspired by a real dark chapter in the life of our farm, our family farm that's been ours for, over 100 years now. My grandpa, Wenjanowski, Grandpa Bear, as I call him, he did such an amazing job building the ranch, taking it over from his parents, in the 60s, and building it to the ranch that it is today. As he started, partnering with my mom and my dad and, created the next generation of wealth and progress, for the ranch, different ideals got in the way. And as my grandpa revealed when he was diagnosed with cancer, what the succession plan was going to be, unfortunately, it destroyed the family. Now, between you and me and everybody, listening, I thought that what my grandpa was going to do was a very fair deal. I thought he was right on the money with the distribution of land, and every rancher and farmer is asset rich and cash poor. Most of them are. You've got all this land, you've got a bit of debt, but you got no money in the bank. So how are you going to make sure the family's taken care of? So I was very supportive for my grandpa, and my uncle and I wrote this song called Legacy, which is really a spoken word poem that talks about how he builds this up, and he's got this plan, and he's got this dream, and he's got this plan, and he's got this dream, and he's realizing this dream. And here he is, he's building a legacy, building a legacy, building a legacy until it starts to deteriorate because of greed and other opinions, and it's trending in the wrong direction. And all your work should be for me. And now lawyers are taking the cash and the soil. And it's just, it was a 6-7 year period that almost killed my grandpa. The cancer didn't kill him, but, wasn't going to kill him. The stress was. So that I wrote this song. It's very dark, but it's also very true. There's, so that's what Legacy is all about. So if anybody wants to take a deep dive, I've never, ever done a song like this ever in my life, and I probably never will again. But it's a creative expression, I guess. So
congrats for you for sharing that story. And I think people may not. A lot of our audience, whether they're in Oklahoma, Alberta, Ontario, or Ohio, they have stories just like that they can identify with that. So good for you for writing that song. Tour plans for the album, and we got a lot of audience here across Canada and the US. Can they expect Brett Kissel on the road here?
Absolutely. We are embarking on our Compass tour that will go right across Canada, and we've got some really unique dates that we'll be announcing in 2024 in America as well. So I'm really, really proud that at this point in my career, Canadians will know that, I've been at it for over 10 years, and it's been an amazing life and an amazing chapter. But now that, my wife and I, we've got these 4 beautiful kids, it's really important to pick and choose the right spots and to tour in the most effective way. And so we figured out the way to do that. And we've got these great shows lined up that, are across Canada. In Southern Alberta, I know that we're probably going to hit up Medicine Hat or Lethbridge in the new year. I've got a really unique show coming up in 2 weeks in Calgary, and it's with the Philharmonic Orchestra. So we're going to take a bunch of my hits, as well as a bunch of these wonderful songs from the Compass Project, West and East, and we're going to do them with the symphony. So I just can't wait for this show.
That's pretty neat. Awesome stuff. Well, hey, Brett, congratulations on the album. Really looking forward to, I'm going to pick it up this afternoon and listen to it and purchase it online, and looking forward to diving into some of that heartfelt music that your sweat and some tears are all over those lyrics. So congratulations on the album, and encourage the entire Real Agriculture and RealAg Radio audience to check out the Brett Kissel's new album. It is the Compass Project, and this is the West album. So please check it out. Brett, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And there's one other quick song called the Crib Song that right after Legacy, you'll hear the Crib Song. I wrote about my favorite card game. So the pendulum's going to swing from darkness to something a little bit more up-tempo and lighthearted. So you enjoy that record, Shaun, and thanks for your time on the station today.
Looking forward to it. 15-2, 15-4, 15-6. Oh, look, it's a double skunk. Hey, Brett, thanks a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Take care, buddy.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. That was great. Great to chat with Brett Kissel, new album. Make sure you go get it. Yeah, I love when we can have some guests on that talk about stuff, that you're interested in, rural lifestyle, country music. It appeals to all of you. And it's just kind of cool to do something different. Appreciate Brett Kissel wanting to do that interview. Really, that's pretty neat stuff. Okay, when we come back on RealAg Radio, we're going to dive into the top ag news stories of the day right after this.
As a grower, you spend a lot of time focused on the details. And sometimes it's only after harvest that you can step back and see the bigger picture. At AGI, we spend a lot of time focused on details too, making sure you can store your grain how you need to and move it when you need to. Learn more at aggrowth.com.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com. I'm the host of The Word, and I love doing The Word. I love the questions. I love the challenges. I love having to apply agronomics to all over the globe and areas outside of my normal jurisdiction. Also, I love the feedback the most, where growers challenge me, tell me about their plot results, help me to learn. The Word, absolutely the best part of my day.
It's time for the top ag news stories of the day, brought to you by Co-op. Co-op's Grown with Purpose recognizes how your farm brings sustainability, agronomics, and safety to our food, community, and environment. What you do matters out there. Make it count. Contact your local Co-op Grow Team member to learn more. Okay, let's dive into the top ag news stories of the day here. We already covered the biggest, I think, news story of the day with the Senate rejecting the amendments by the Senate Ag Committee on Bill C-234. That is great news for the ag industry in my mind. Now, some of you may not agree, but I think I'm with the majority of people in agriculture on that one. Now, pay attention here. The Canadian Revenue Agency's interest rate on overdue taxes will soon rise to 10%. Making paying back the agency more expensive and a greater priority for many individuals and already stretched small business owners. Until last year, the interest rate on unpaid taxes was low enough that it was not always a top financial priority, several accounts told the Globe and Mail in a story. Now, since 2007, the rate has remained stable at 5% or 6%, a manageable level for most people. But that has changed in recent months. For many individual Canadians and business owners, it's yet another cost straining their income and another burden stemming from high interest rates. The amount owed compounds daily, and the interest comes on top of other penalties for paying late. So make sure you talk to your accountant about some of those changes, and I guess pay your taxes on time. That might be another component of that. I wonder how big the due unpaid tax bill is that CRA is sitting on. That'd be an interesting number. I didn't see that in the story. Not good news for fertilizer if you're paying attention where fertilizer prices are headed. European natural gas traders are detecting early indications of increased demand for natural gas this winter. In October, consumption rose by 1%, according to the International Energy Agency analyst Gergely Molnar. That marks the first year-on-year increase in any month since the energy crisis. During the previous heating season, Europe managed to avoid blackouts primarily due to significant consumption reductions, aided by what was relatively quite a mild winter season last year. And we also saw transitioning to alternative fuels and implementing energy-saving measures. So we've talked before, right, about pay attention to that European gas price. The Europe, and this all also goes into the issue around what's happening with Ukraine and Russia as well. So that's something to pay attention to. U.S. wheat exports have reached a 20-year low due to several factors, including the shrinking Mississippi River and competition from abundant global grain supplies. So a story in Bloomberg, the drought has significantly reduced the water levels in the Mississippi River, historically a key route for shipping about 2/3 of U.S. grain exports to the U.S. Gulf. While water levels have slightly improved from a record low last month, global crop buyers have already turned to alternative sources for their grain needs, diminishing demand for U.S. wheat and causing the country to lose its preferred shipper status. So I'm assuming, especially from a high-quality wheat standpoint, that's good news for Canada. But we got our own, as always. We have not that challenge. We got different challenges, but obviously some concerns there for U.S. wheat growers. Sticking in the U.S. now, one of the most positive people I think that is in Congress is G.T. Thompson. And I've been able to talk to Representative Thompson on AgriTalk when I joined there on Fridays. Now, he is chairman of the House Ag Committee, and he's trying to find a farm bill. And interesting news this week, he continued to express optimism about the possibility of passing a new farm bill in December in the House of Representatives, but he made his statements during the American Bankers Association 71st Agricultural Bankers Conference in Oklahoma City. Thompson was asked about the impact of Mike Johnson being elected as Speaker of the House, and how that's going to impact Farm Bill reauthorization, to which he confidently responded that they are determined to get the Farm Bill done. Now, pay attention here. However, Thompson acknowledged that an extension of the current Farm Bill could be necessary while the Senate and others complete their work on the Farm Bill. So there's a bit of a signal. He's been very confident about getting a new one done. That's a little bit of a but statement. Definitely be following that. Now, when we talk to commodity analysts here on the show, they're always talking about Chinese demand. That's what everybody's paying attention to. Okay, Chinese soybean imports slowed dramatically in October. Also, China's meat imports declined in October as well. Those are a couple concerning things. On the meat imports during the first 10 months of this year totaled 6.26 million metric tons. Overall, it's up 3.8% from the same period last year. But obviously, we have seen a decline. Not sure if that is seasonal, but definitely something that a lot of analysts, of course, are always paying attention to. And also, Cruiser Max Vibrance all-in-one pre-mixed seed treatment will be offered by Syngenta on seed potatoes for the 2024 growing season in Canada. So Syngenta Canada says the fungicide and insecticide seed treatment provides protection against a broad spectrum of yield-robbing pests, including Fusarium, silver scurf, and Rhizotonia, which is better known as black scurf. I'll be honest, and I'm not... I try to be an agronomist with Pete on Mondays here on the show. I've never heard the term scarf. Jumping back to the Chinese soybean import story that I just talked about, it kind of some mixed messaging though. Okay, let's circle back on that for a second. China imported 5.16 million metric tons of soybeans in October, down 27.8% from September, and lower than the 6.5 million metric tons to 7 million metric tons traders expected on some cargoes that were delayed. However, that was up from 24.6% from last year. Through the first 10 months of the year, China imported 82.42 million metric tons of soybeans, up 14.6% from the same period last year. So on a month-to-month basis, down, but overall for the year, pretty positive. So we had Chip Flory on the show here a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how Chinese demand is maybe better than some people are giving it credit for. Okay, if you have any feedback, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Thank you so much, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. We'll see you tomorrow on the Farmer Rapid Fire. Cheers, everybody.